I thought it was necessary to have this press conference for two reasons. One, to go through some of the budget measures which got lost in all the noise of the budget debate and the commentary. And also, so to give some clarity on the many different things that are in the 2024 budget, and also to deal with some current issues which arise from the budget action. So I've put them into categories. And in the agriculture sector, we have allocated $400 million, with $250 million of that for the incentives to farmers. So this is a special allocation. This is quite distinct from the usual allocation that the Ministry of Agriculture would have. And in fact, the allocation for incentives to farmers is placed within the allocation of the Ministry of Finance. So it doesn't form, when you're doing the numbers, when you're counting, you would not see that normally in the addition for agriculture. So I thought I should make that clear. So we have a further 400 million apart from normal allocations, 250 million for incentives to farmers, and for the first time, 150 million for the development of infrastructure through the Paliseco Agricultural Enterprises Company. And that will be used to construct access roads, irrigation channels, and all of the infrastructure works that are required to assist farmers to maximize their production. So that is in this year's budget. We also have a program of establishing community gardens and green markets across the country. There's a very successful project already in Cashew Gardens, which was recognized by the United Nations and awarded Green Leaf Merit by the EMA. And we are going to roll out the community garden and green market project that was so successful in Cashew Gardens to many other areas such as Demerara, Bonaire, Pine Settlement, and so on. We also have many apprentice and wood projects. So there are many apprenticeship programs that are being funded in this 2024 budget. One of them is the Manufacturing Apprentice and Wood Products Program. That's already operational. We are adding for the first time in 2024, and you will have seen it advertised. Someone, in fact, sent me a copy of the advertisement that is out there for the Yachting Marine Apprenticeship Program. It's open to anyone. And I actually will use this opportunity now to correct some bad information that was in the media with respect to yacht arrivals. In fact, I think I already tweeted about this, but it's a good place to talk about it. In 2020, in the COVID year, there was a shutdown, obviously, and yachts were not allowed to come into Trinidad and Tobago for quite a while. So that yacht arrivals in that year, just in the vicinity of 188. Prior to that, in 2018, 2019, yacht arrivals were in the 800 figure. We already have over 600 yacht arrivals in 2023. And when I do the maths, we're going to get very close to the 2018 and 2019 figures for yacht arrivals of somewhere close to 800. So that yacht arrivals in 23 are 4 times the yacht arrivals in 2020. So that 2020 was an outlier. It cannot be used to assess anything. So there was this article which gave the impression that our yacht arrivals in 21, 22, and 23 are similar to 2020. That is not so. In fact, if you go down to Chaguaramas, it's a beehive of activity. And a lot of the yards now are running out of space in terms of accommodating foreign yachts. And there's quite a lot of employment and activity down in the Chaguaramas area. But there's a dearth of skills. And therefore, in this financial year, we have a yachting marine apprenticeship program being driven by the Ministry of Trade, together with other training entities like MIC, and we have almost $7 million allocated for that. We also are pushing green manufacturing, and we have a green manufacturing initiative in collaboration with UWI, So the Ministry of Trade is pushing that as well, looking at businesses. And if you can reduce your consumption of electricity, for example, you can reduce your carbon footprint. We will give you a grant to achieve that. So that is a project of the Ministry of Trade. We also have a program that the Unit Trust has done, very successful, called Upreneur Plus, which provides support and an enabling environment for young and emerging entrepreneurs in particular. And we expect in 2024, we've allocated almost $16 million for the Upreneur program, which helps small and micro enterprises. And we expect this will assist 100 small and micro enterprises to improve their production, to improve their discipline, to get all the paperwork in order, to get their accounts in order, to seek out markets and to essentially grow. With respect to the Exim Bank, we continue with that program, supporting manufacturers for export and importers of basic foods and other essential items like pharmaceuticals. Up to June 2023, the Exim Bank had successfully supported 96 importers with US $746 million, and we are continuing. It's doing very, very, very well. And we are going to expand these programs. I mentioned the plan to open a special window at the Exim Bank for small and medium-sized businesses to get access to foreign exchange, because we recognize that the end of the scale, the end of the ladder. And the commercial banks have also asked whether we can change the instructions that the central bank gives to the banks to open up a special window for small and medium enterprises to access foreign exchange at the commercial banks, and we're giving that active consideration. With respect to the HDC, there's a very successful village improvement program where the government identifies needy families living in unfinished houses or board houses, and we build houses for them as a basic starter 2-bedroom concrete house, and they don't have to pay for it. They provide some sweat equity, but they get a house that they could live in, a modern 2-bedroom concrete house. So you can imagine moving from living in a board house with no proper internal plumbing, no proper electrical wiring, etc., moving into a concrete structure that has all the modern conveniences in it. We have allocated $100 million for this in 24, and we expect this will allow the construction of over 600 of these village improvement houses, which are being done at a fraction of the cost of HCC houses. Your HCC house was reaching up to $1.5 million in expenditure to cost, to build. And these village improvement houses are being built for $150,000, believe it or not. We also will continue to finance the HCC in its regular housing construction program. I've explained the rationale behind the school supplies grant. It is not limited to textbooks, and it is going to needy families, of which we estimate there are about 65,000 of those, 65,000 needy students, sorry, not needy families. And that book grant will be rolled out in fiscal 2024, $1,000 per needy student. We use a means test, of course. I want to re-emphasize that we are focusing on adult literacy. We have a real problem in this country where adults can neither read nor write, and they're ashamed, obviously. You know, they don't want to let people know that they completed the school system and they're unable to read and write. And that is part of ALTA's Adult Literacy Tutors Association program to get people to overcome that embarrassment and get involved in the ALTA program. And we expect that we will be able to assist 4,000 persons per year to become literate and numerate. We've allocated almost $8 million for that in partnership with ALTA. In addition, we are now partnering with the central bank. The central bank have been doing financial literacy on its own, and we now felt it's necessary to partner with them and give it the stamp of approval of the Ministry of Finance. And we're going to focus on at-risk communities. And we have $5 million in the budget for that. going out to communities, an outreach program to promote financial literacy, especially among lower income groups. We're also reintroducing the Market Box program that was introduced during COVID. It was very successful, and it provides backward linkages into agriculture because it gives farmers a assured market for their products, which is basically short crops, vegetables, and that sort of thing, provision and so on, and also fresh meat, fresh chickens in particular. So this deals with two issues. It provides good, healthy food to persons who are poor and vulnerable, and it also provides farmers with a ready market for their products. We've allocated $60 million for that in 2024. The Junior Achievement Program, which people who are a little older will remember from many, many years ago, back in the 80s and so on, and that helps youth develop employment and entrepreneurial skills. This will be managed by the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, and we have targeted 40 primary schools and 40 secondary schools for the reintroduction of the Junior Achievement Program. We're doing it in partnership with the International Junior Achievement Organization, and I've allocated almost $8 million for that for 2024. In addition, something has been missing from our community development programs over the last couple of years, and that is specific programs within communities in various skills training activities. When I first came into Parliament, 30 years ago, in the community centers in my constituency, there were numerous things in upholstery, cake making, dressmaking, furniture making, and all this sort of thing, all within the community centers. We are reintroducing this program of community activities, and we will work with the Ministry of Community Development to make sure that they roll out these programs within all communities all over the country. And for that, we have allocated almost $19 million. Additionally, something that I experienced as an MP many, many years ago, 20 or more years ago, particular individuals were assigned to various communities to deal with community sports. Some of the more common sports like cricket, football, netball, etc. And these community sporting individuals would then work with the local government bodies, with the Member of Parliament and so on, and we would use them to establish and manage village sports, football competitions, cricket competition, netball competition within a particular area, within a village. And we're going to be doing that across the country as well. We have $39 million for that. There are other measures that I think I could go to now. We have made a commitment to provide $1 billion in back pay for public sector workers whose trade unions accepted the offer of 4%. We've made a commitment to provide that by Christmas of 2023. We'll also be bringing all of these workers up to their correct salaries with the 4% increase. We also increased the minimum wage, and it needs to be repeated that the increase in the minimum wage will help almost 200,000 workers and will put at least $500 a month extra into their pockets, up to as much as $900. I was in a supermarket just the other day, and a security guard came up to me and said, "Thank you." And I said, "Well, I'm not sure what you're thanking me for." And he said he is a minimum wage worker. I said, "Oh, and you were being paid at the minimum wage?" He said, "Yes." He was being paid at $17.50. I said, "Okay. So with the increase to $20.50, you will get an additional $900 a month." He said, "Yes." So people have tried to trivialize the increase in the minimum wage. But for many of these people, an extra $500 a month and an extra $900 a month is substantial. So I thought I should mention that. I think I can stop now. And there are other measures in the budget, but I would like to open the floor now to questions because there is a sitting of Parliament this afternoon, and I would not want to run out of time.
Thank you, Minister. Before we proceed, media representatives are kindly reminded to identify yourself before you pose the question. The floor is now open, and I will take our first question.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Minister. Ryan Hamilton Davis here from the Trinidad Newsday. I want to focus on one of the later points where you spoke on the back pay. I know you just said that government made a commitment for to make payments by Christmas, but there were reports of the Prime Minister saying that this may or may not happen and it may go later. Could you give me an idea of whether or not that is being considered and if that commitment is still on, particularly for Christmas?
Let me correct what you're saying. I am not aware that the Prime Minister said that this will be paid later. So just let me correct you. I watched that press conference myself, and I also need to correct the record. The Prime Minister was talking about tutor and teachers. And when he said a permanent secretary, I remember it was very carefully, I went back and looked at the video. A permanent secretary told the minister that back pay would not be paid until May of 2024. The Prime Minister was speaking about the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education, and the minister was the Minister of Education. I can tell you none of my permanent secretaries in the 8 years that I have been here have ever told me that they would not make their best effort to do whatever assignment was given to them. And no permanent secretary in this Ministry of Finance would ever tell me that they are not going to make good on a commitment given in the annual budget, especially since they're involved in the preparation of the budget speech and in the preparation of the estimates. So I just want to clear that up. It was not my permanent secretary, and it was not me. Okay, so let's go on now. There are two ministries involved. There is the Ministry of National Security and the Ministry of Education. And that, let me deal with another misconception. Public servants, the trade union that represents public servants, which is the Public Services Association, and the trade union that represents daily paid workers, those two trade unions have not accepted the government's offer of 4%. And since they have not accepted them, they don't fall within the definition of us paying all of the workers whose trade unions accepted the 4% by Christmas, okay? The PSA has not accepted it. So that I saw a lot of commentary about outside there from clearly mischievous people that the government has reneged on its promise to pay public servants by Christmas. That is not correct. The unions that accepted are the association representing the Defense Force, the Police Service Associations, the Fire Service Association, the Prison Service Association, and the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association. So that in the context of the statement made in the budget, the workers that have been identified to receive the back pay by Christmas are teachers, prison officers, fire service officers, police officers, and members of the Defense Force, Army, Coast Guard, and Air Guard. Very happy to announce that the Defense Force was extremely proactive with respect to this matter. Very soon after the Chief Personnel Officer signed the agreement with the Defense Force for the 4%, the Defense Force administration moved swiftly and started to pay all members of the Army, Coast Guard, and Air Guard the new salaries. That's since last fiscal year. And then they moved very swiftly at the end of last financial year. And very close to September 30th, 2023, the last day of the fiscal year, they sought and obtained approval and received funding to pay back pay to to all members of the Defense Force. So the Defense Force gone clear already. I want to clear that up because there's a lot of misinformation outside there. The ones that are left are the police service, prison service, fire service, and teachers. We in the Ministry of Finance now are working with all of these entities. We are working with the Ministry of Education. In fact, we had meetings here at the Ministry of Finance just a couple of days ago. They identified the additional resources that they need because the statement made by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education to his minister was based on the resources that they have at this time. Obviously, they need additional resources. So that we are working with them to provide the Ministry of Education with the additional people that they need to do the calculations, because calculations have to be done for every single worker, teacher in this case. They have to look at their payment record going back to 2014 and so on, and calculate the amount of back pay that is due to them for each teacher. And then each one of those calculations has to be audited, and then a payment file is created with all 17,000 teachers, and that is sent to the Treasury so that it can be paid by Christmas of 2023. So we in finance are working with education to source the additional human resources that they need to do that. With respect to the police are presently finalizing the payment files for each police officer, and then they will move in short order to the calculation of the back pay owed to each police officer, again, going back through the years, seeing where they were in terms of their salary levels, applying the 2% for the first 3 years, the 2% for the second 3 years, and then creating the payment file that is required to be sent to the Treasury so they'll be paid by Christmas. Again, we are providing all necessary support to the police and will source all necessary human resources that they may need to help. But we're fairly confident that the police service, the commissioners provide allocating sufficient resources, but if we need any, we will assist them. With respect to the prison service and the fire service, they are working on the same things, the calculation of the amount due to each one, the auditing. The prison service is quite far ahead, fire service not so far ahead, but we are going to work with them in the Ministry of Finance and provide them with the resources, the technology, the expertise, and the know-how. So I am quite confident that once everybody pulls together, we will achieve the back pay promise that we made to pay these categories of workers, teachers, prison officers, fire officers, police officers, by December 2023, we're aiming for December 22, December 23, somewhere around there, and some will get before. Some might even get in November. And I'm fairly confident we can do it. We're just pulling everybody together to get it done. So I just want to clear that.
Brian has a second question for Minister.
Minister, I just wanted to move on to Forex. There has been a lot of complaints in the public domain about challenges.
Hold on, can I ask Ryan, you all will stop writing articles now saying that the PS in Finance told the Minister of Finance that they're not working? They will stop that.
Well, we will write what's being reported right now.
What is being reported right now is accurate. Okay? Prime Minister didn't say Minister of Finance, and he didn't say PS Finance. Okay?
And he didn't say PS, yes, of course. I just wanted to, yes.
Okay, right.
Yes, concerning the Forex, there have been complaints in the public domain about Forex. I know you did touch on it concerning Exm Bank giving SMEs access as well. But do you believe that this would be enough to cover what is needed, particularly for the Christmas season, as there would be added imports and
I will be holding discussions with the central bank, and I think if the commercial banks are willing to operate a special window for SMEs, that is something we could do right away. In terms of the permanent solution, I did give a 6-month time frame for that, but I'm sure we can do something to help SMEs in November, I'm talking about, to help SMEs to get the Forex they need for the Christmas period.
Asha, I think you have a question, Minister.
Hi, Minister. Asha Javid from the Guardian newspapers. Can you say whether the 4% salary cap applies to Caribbean Airlines pilots? And the second question, I'd like to segue a little bit into Nike One. And if you can speak to government's preference shares in the company. And whether you're aware of whether local financial institutions and the hit they will take if NIFT files for bankruptcy.
Well, let me deal with the 4% and Caribbean Airlines. We have not given any extraordinary instructions to state enterprises. The 4% applies across the board as a maximum figure. Unfortunately, some state enterprises have gone ahead and they had negotiations which were ongoing before the 4%. Some of these negotiations have been going on for years, and some organizations went ahead and offered wage increase a little different to the 4%. The 4% is over a 6-year period. So that we wouldn't want to complicate any industrial relations matters. I mean, if Caribbean Airlines offered 7.5% in good faith, it would be a little difficult for us over 5 years, apparently. But then a reduction in hours from 70 to 60 or something like that. It would be difficult for us in the Ministry of Finance to create an industrial relations problem for them. But my understanding is that the pilots in any event have rejected that offer. With respect to NIQUAN, I know my place. I will stay in my section, and I suggest you pose that question to the Minister of Energy.
Can I just ask a follow-up question on the Caribbean Airlines wage? Do you perceive that if the pilots receive a higher percentage rating salary increase, that the Public Service Association would it would take longer to negotiate with the PSA?
Not really, because remember they're reducing the guaranteed hours as well. And that was what the complaint is all about. That even though Caribbean Airlines
Sorry, Minister, you may have to repeat that because we got no audio to your answer. I don't know if it's I did not hear that answer.
audio now?
Yeah, hearing it now. So if you could repeat that answer, please.
The 7.5% offer made by Caribbean Airlines to the pilots also included a reduction in the number of guaranteed hours. And I believe the combination of those two things, the 7.5% plus the reduction in guaranteed hours, is what led to the dispute and led to the industrial action. That's my understanding, okay? But when you combine the two, it would be less than 7.5% in reality. And therefore, I don't see any effect on any negotiation with the PSA. But the negotiations with the PSA are now in industrial court, so there are no negotiations per se. We've made an offer of 4%, and that's it.
Thank you, Asha. We move on to Sunil Lala. Sunil, can you pose your question?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, Minister Sunil Lala, TDT News. In terms of the window you would have discussed for the SMEs in terms of the Forex, I know you said it could be done as soon as possible, but would there be a determination in terms of what businesses get this Forex? Would it be somewhat of a first come, first serve basis in the discussions with commercial banks? And just secondly, for me, I heard some commentary, I'm not sure if you would have addressed it, but the retirement age, would that be a voluntary process or would it be mandatory? If you could just address that.
See, all of you are trying to get in multiple questions. As I said, I have to go to Parliament, but I'll try my best. Okay, so let's start with the questions one by one. Right now, when the central bank provides foreign exchange to the commercial banks, they tell them to prioritize it in accordance with certain sectors, trade being the most important, and then you have medical expenses and education and so on. There's a ranking. Okay, there's no defined role inside of there that within trade, because that's where SMEs would fall, they would fall within trade, that you should give a percentage of this to SMEs. And that has been a suggestion made by the commercial banks. And it is something I will be discussing with the central bank to see if we can implement something like that. So let's say the central bank puts 50 million or 100 million US into the system. it could be determined that a percentage of that is to be given to SMEs. That's the kind of thinking that we have right now, and that will be firmed up in this month, November. With respect to retirement age, could you repeat that question? Because when you hit me with multiple complex questions, it's best for you to repeat that retirement age question, please.
So I heard some commentary about the retirement age, and could you elaborate on whether this would be a voluntary process or mandatory process? Because I heard some commentary. I just want you to address that to clear it up.
Well, you are simply proving what I said in the parliament. Because of what I said is that I've said this so many times, but nobody seems to hear. I said that I have said on multiple occasions that if we increase the retirement age, it will be voluntary. And I said that so many times, but it seems I have to repeat, so I'm repeating again. It will be voluntary.
I will move on to Ryan Davis, who has an additional question. I believe Ryan Davis was an additional question.
Yes. Hi. One last question for me. I'm not sure if this is particularly on the topic of the budget, but I don't know if you're willing to weigh in on the emerging situation where there are complaints from customers of a particular bank of credit card transactions that they did not make. I don't know if the government would be looking into this, or if they are not seeing a reason to go in as yet.
It's a central bank responsibility. Now, I must tell you that when there was all this confusion with PriceSmart, I did communicate with the central bank and I asked them to investigate. And that is what happens in these situations. The government doesn't get involved. We don't go deep into that commercial banking sector. The regulator, which is the central bank, would investigate. So the government would not be getting involved in that sort of thing. But any complaint that is a serious complaint, like the one with the PriceSmart problem, I as minister would normally contact the governor of the central bank and ask him to investigate it and to let me know what's going on and what the central bank is doing to correct the problem. Okay.
Thank you. And I'll ask Asha, who has another question, Minister.
Yeah, last two questions, Minister. Proposed electricity prices are in the public domain. Are you concerned that higher electricity prices are going to take money away from minimum wage earners with the new proposed scale that the RIC has put in the public domain? Has the government looked at these TNTech rate increases just yet?
I have 2 points to make on that.
Yeah.
The way the system works is the Regulated Industries Commission, which is an independent body, would do its examination, its review, its calculations, its consultations, etc., and then it will determine rates. Okay. The determination then comes to the cabinet considers it, and the cabinet takes appropriate action. I don't want to prejudge what the cabinet will do. I don't want to talk out of turn on that. So I'm just explaining to you how the system works. RIC does its work, determines the rates, and the rates, the new rates are then submitted to cabinet for its consideration, and cabinet will decide on what is to be done. I don't want to prejudge that. That's number one. With respect to minimum age workers, I'm so glad you brought that up. We have an electricity rebate scheme in place where if your electricity bill is $300 or less, you get a substantial rebate on the bill so that your bill could be reduced from $300 to maybe $225 or something like that. Your minimum wage earner is going to fall into that category because the vast majority of households in Trinidad and Tobago, their bill is in that region, okay? And therefore, the increase in rates will fall within the rebate scheme. That's number one. And we always said that we would always help the poor and vulnerable. So if you have to tweak the rebate scheme so that there's no increase whatsoever for people at the lowest end, or we just have a marginal increase for them because the rebate is kicking in, I don't think that the increase in electricity rates will have any significant effect on minimum wage workers because they're going to fall within the electricity rebate scheme of the government.
Minister, we have no further questions at this time, or do we?
Okay, can I just ask one last question, Minister, as I have you? There's no chair at the Securities and Exchange Commission right now. Is that a satisfactory state of affairs for you, and what is being done to rectify it?
The cabinet has made a decision to appoint the person who is the vice chairman as the chairman, and that decision has been communicated to the relevant authorities for the instruments to be prepared and issued. So that problem is resolved.
So do we have time for one more question?
I can go for 10 minutes.
If there are any other questions, we ask you to utilize the raise hand button so that I can acknowledge you.
Well, seeing as nobody is offering, is there any word on NIFT too?
Yes, of course, I could answer that. You heard you said my audio went off, but it didn't come back on me and Nikwan. I said with Nikwan, I know my place, I stay in my section. Ask the Minister of Energy about that. So I'm hoping, if you didn't hear it, I'm just repeating it for you. Now, with respect to NIFT 2, yes, NIFT was so successful, the first 5-year transfer was so successful, and we did an analysis and we found that individuals, particularly people at the lower end of the scale, were far more interested in the 5-year Series A tranche of NIFT than they were in the 12-year and certainly in the 20-year. The 20-year was picked up mostly by institutions like insurance companies and so on. The 12-year was picked up by wealthy individuals and by companies. The 5-year was picked up by your ordinary investor. So we are going to do another 5-year. Right now, we are figuring out what the interest rate would be. In fact, I signed off on that just a week ago, but I don't want to tell tales out of school. That will become known very soon. And we are focusing the NIFT 2 so that it will target again that group of individuals from the person with the smallest amount of money to medium-sized individuals. It's being designed for that. There will be a very attractive interest rate, and it will have a tenure of 5 years. And I expect to be able to formalize and finalize all of this within the next 2 months.
Nobody else is asking questions, so I'll go back to the Minister again. Minister, you brought back NIFT, but there are a lot of financial institutions, First Citizens, Republic Bank, Royal Bank, who have invested in NIFT, and that comes right under you, no? It's not, I don't think it's an energy issue, so to speak. Haven't they? They've made significant investments to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. As I told you, I know my place. I will stay in my section. Please pose those questions to the Minister of Energy.
So we have no further questions at this time.
So thank you very much. You all have allowed me to meet my Parliament deadline. I am happy I was able to clarify the issue of the back pay. And I want to re-emphasize that we have all hands on deck, everybody in the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Education, the various protective services, the police, the fire, prisons. We're all working together as one united team to achieve this objective of paying the back pay by the 25th of December before. And it may come in batches. Some people may get it before the last working day, the 23rd or whatever it is. Some people get it in November, some people get it in early December, but we're all working together as a united government team to achieve this objective. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
TTT News, delivering more news more often to more people. Follow us on social media at TTT Live Online. Log on to www.ttt.live.